Good morning. I'm on the Great Ouse, and we're after the chub. And as you can see, I've been here a couple of hour and a half, and I've literally just got my first bite, and it don't look a bad fish. How's that? There we go, Great Ouse chub, just under £5. Little run ring rig, nothing too fancy. I'll show you the rig shortly. Smoke shield hook links, half a boilie, little bit of broken boilie this one come to, so as you can see, it's nice, cloudy, overcast. The conditions look good, to be fair, but it's taken me probably an hour or so to actually get the rod to pull over. But there you go, Great Ouse chub. How's that? We've moved out of my first swim, as I said earlier. We're on the Ouse. I've managed one chub out already, just under £5. I've just bounced, the swim went a little bit quiet, so I've just bounced into my second swim. And as you can see, I'm using two rods. I don't use two rods in every swim that I fish. If it warrants it and I think I can get away with it, then I will do. And there's one or two factors. This time of year, we're late September now, and the water is still very low. We've had a hot summer. The water is still very low. It's got a little bit of a tinge to it. We had a little drop of rain last night. But generally, sort of most of my sessions, whether I come out early morning or late evening, are usually 3-4 hours long at most. So I tend to sort of bounce around a little bit. And if the tips don't tell me anything, i.e. I've had no taps, rattles, it sort of indicates to me when I need to move out the swim. So that's basically how I set myself up. I will pre-bait, just a little bit of bait, not too much, because I'm tending to find at the minute, this river, the Ouse in particular, we've got a big head of crayfish, and I find that by pre-baiting too much, you can end up drawing the crays to your spots in, if you like. So sometimes you want to pre-bait and heavy bait, and sometimes you can get away with it, don't get me wrong, but there's other times where, you know, I could turn up in a swim and just fish a single hook bait, no other attraction around it, and I'll still get crayed out. So you sort of get a little bit caught out, really. As to the best plan of attack, but half hour, 40-45 minutes I give a swim, and if I haven't had one, but I've had a couple of indications, like a couple of little sharp tugs or pulls which are clearly fish and not crayfish, because obviously you can start to tell the difference between the two. If I've had a little bit of a pluck, then I'll sort of edge it 10-15 minutes at a time. Sit for another 10 minutes if I've had a pluck. More often than not, quite a lot of the time when that scenario has happened and I have sat for an extra 10-15 minutes, the rod's pulled over, bang, you've got a fish. So it's just weighing it up, really. You sort of get to know, I think, after a little while, whether the swim's going to produce or not. But again, we're just going back to the crayfish. and this time of year, it's not so bad later in the year, and I'll explain why, but this time of year when it's still mild, the water temperature's warm, and the crays are really, really active, that the softer baits then, if you like your luncheon meats, your bread, etc. For me personally, I seem to struggle with the softer baits, knowing full well that because of the cray population, I'm not fishing because I've got no bait on. Sometimes you're winding the baits there, don't get me wrong, but it plays awful mind games with me, so I tend to use the harder hook baits, like hardened boilies, hard dumbbells, and even if I was to use a pellet, I probably personally for me wouldn't use an 8mm. I tend to use a 14mm. It just gives them a bit more bite time than, if you like, or I've got a bait longer for a longer time on the hook. So we're all different, but that's generally how I try and see it. So today I've actually got just had a little bit of a tap. It's either going to be a little chublet tucking at it, or something picking up around the free offerings. Come on. See, that has told me then that my bait's still on. I've not been crayed. And that is like a typical scenario. Now, I'll probably sit here for another 10-15 minutes because I know there's something in the area. Right, I've just moved out of my second swim. No joy in there. In fact, I got crayed. So yeah, it was time to move out. So before I drop into my third swim, then I just thought I'd run you very quickly through what I'm using. So today I have come out with 2 rods. I won't always use 2 rods. As I said earlier, if the swim warrants and I've got room, and I think I can get away with it, then I will. If not, then it will be 1 rod only. But today I've come out with 2 different rig setups on, and again I'll explain why. So if I'm going to put 2 rods out, I've been using the new small bolt and run kits, and I usually fish the bolted rig on my upstream rod, just purely because I can tighten up nicely to it. You usually get one little spring back, slack, and hopefully the fish is on. So that's why I fish the bolt rig on my upstream rod. My downstream rod I usually have on a little run rig, a little free running setup, and again I'll fish it as slack as I can effectively, or just enough, so when the fish does pick the hook bait up, it's nice and free running, it feels nothing, it's heading downstream, and then your indications on the tip. So that's basically why I use the 2 different setups. So I've got the small bolt and run kit on there, 1.5 ounce lead, so nothing too dramatic, depending on the flow. And today it's near enough running backwards. So and again, I'll always go overweight on me upstream rod so that I can really tighten up to it. So again, it gives you that drop back indication. Smoke shield hook link, £15, and all this may sound heavy. I've got a £10 main line, I've got a £15 hook link, and it may sound a little bit heavy for chub fishing, but generally around where I am and the makeup of the ooze, lots of snags, rocks, reeds. So when I do get that bite, I like to be able to give it a little bit of stick then, should we say. So just to make sure that I can handle and get them out without snagging up, losing fish. Last thing I want to do. So that's why I'm fishing the way I am. On this rod today, because of the crayfish, I've got a hardened hook bait. It's blue cheese and garlic. It's got a little bit of the same glug on then, if you like, but they're very hard hook baits, and it just gives me a little bit more longevity if there's crays in me swim. So that's that one. So again, for the purposes of this, I tend to use that always on me downstream rod, or if I'm fishing downstream, and even if I've only come out with one rod, it's generally this setup as me go-to then, if you like. And it's nice and straightforward. It's one of the little small run rings, stopped by a turbo bead, which again has got the metal, it's got the metal clip inside for quick changing. So again, just giving you a little bit more stability and grunting, if you like, if you hook a big fish. You know, the ooze is known for sporadic big barbel, big chub. The last thing I want is me kit failing then. So that's that. Again, so it's nice and free running. I have got up here a little grip stop, and I can move it up and down the line to suit. Like if I've got weed beds, or I'm laying a bait in between weed beds, I can adjust this, and it's just got some heavy metal putty on it. It's just to pin down that last sort of like couple of foot if you like, just to get it out of the way. Shy feeding fish like a chub, then it just pins down the last couple of foot of my line. So that's why I do that. And again, on this one, it's the same hook length, 15 pound. I've got a size 10 grappler hook on there, and this is a little dumbbell which I've broken in half. But as you can see, I set the hook so it is literally like a claw. If I was barbel fishing, I've got no dramas with having it sort of, I don't know, a quarter of an inch away, like the hair, ready for it to suck like a carp would, if you like. But with these chub, where they just pick it up gently with their lips, I like to make sure that I've got that claw effect nice and tight to me hook bait. So yeah, that's it. Nice simple rigs, and well, as you saw earlier, we banked a nice size chub, and yeah, they work, and it's nice and simple. Just keep things simple, find the fish first and foremost, and lay it out there. Hopefully you'll bag one. There we go then. Just moved into the last swim. Single rod. Bait was in the water probably 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Anked over on the tactics I explained earlier. And 5 pound 12 ounces. Great ooze, dog chub. Thanks for watching.